Japan should not have survived this invasion. In 1274, the greatest empire on earth tested the shores of Kyushu. The defenders at Hakata Bay realized something terrifying. They were facing a style of warfare Japan had never seen. This is the Mongol invasions of Japan, the siege at Hakata Bay, and the legend later called the Divine Wind. By the late 13th century, Kublai Khan ruled an empire that stretched across Asia. After conquering the southern Song and tightening control over Korea, he looked outward. Japan was close, wealthy, and politically divided. Kublai Khan saw a familiar opportunity: demand submission, then punish refusal. Envoys arrived with letters that were formal, confident, and unmistakably threatening. Japan did not respond with surrender. Inside the shogunate, leaders argued over what refusal would cost. Japan had experienced internal wars, but the idea of a continental superpower landing an expeditionary force was new. Refusal became policy. In 1274, the consequence appeared on the horizon. The first invasion fleet sailed from the Korean peninsula, combining Mongol leadership with Korean ships and troops, plus soldiers drawn from the wider Yuan sphere. The force hit islands first, Tsushima and Iki, stepping stones toward Kyushu for coastal communities. The invasion felt like a storm. Word spread inland that foreign armies had landed. Then the fleet reached Hakata Bay, a broad coastal inlet. Japanese defenders expected a certain kind of battle, mounted samurai testing challenges in contests of bravery. That expectation shattered quickly. The Mongols fought as a coordinated army. They used tight formations, disciplined advance, and concentrated missile fire. They did not pause for ritual. They pushed forward as units, using shields and spears to protect massed archery. For many samurai, it felt like fighting a moving war. The psychological shock was real. Accounts describe unfamiliar battlefield signals and sudden bursts of sound. Coordination beat heroism. Timing beat bravado. The critical question became simple: could Japan prevent the invaders from establishing a stable foothold? As evening approached, the Mongol forces withdrew from the shore and returned to their ships. Whatever the reason, the fleet moved offshore. That night, weather turned. A storm struck the anchorage. Ships packed closely and rushed into service were vulnerable. Anchors dragged, vessels collided. Some were driven onto rocks and shallows. By morning, the operation was compromised. The 1274 invasion ended in withdrawal. Japan survived, but survival is not the same as safety. The shogunate understood that if the Mongols returned with a larger force, the next landing could succeed. Japan prepared for a second invasion without the promise of spoils. Defensive war offered little reward, yet the threat was existential. Along the coast of Hakata Bay, the shogunate ordered fortifications. The most famous was a stone wall, built to obstruct landings and force invaders into narrow zones. Patrols increased, watch posts were organized. Japan began treating coastal defense as a sustained national project. Back in Kamakura, real power rested with the Hojo regents. They faced an impossible problem. They needed every warrior family ready to defend Kyushu, but they could not promise the usual prize of land. So the regents framed the crisis as duty, ordered mobilizations, and demanded cooperation from estates and temples. The invasions forced Japan to practice something close to national coordination, and every order revealed how fragile that coordination could be. Preparation also meant learning. Scouts mapped landing sites. Local commanders drilled responses. The stone wall at Hakata was not decorative. It was a brutal engineering solution. It limited where ships could beach, forced troops into exposed areas, and bought defenders time to concentrate. When the 1281 fleet appeared, Japan was waiting with a plan: deny a stable landing, harass the ships, and never allow the invaders to rest long enough to organize a decisive push inland. The Yuan plan depended on timing. Two fleets were supposed to meet and combine strength, but sea travel, weather, and coordination across different command structures made that difficult. The Eastern Route Force arrived first and had to wait offshore, vulnerable to raids and storms. The Southern Route Force carried more ships and men, but moving such a mass over water created delays and supply problems. The longer the fleet stayed at sea, the more pressure built: food, water, morale, and the simple reality that a crowded armada cannot maneuver freely. 7 years passed. Kublai Khan did not forget. In 1281, the second invasion came, and it was bigger. It was not one fleet, but two forces: an Eastern Route army from Korea and a Southern Route army drawn from newly conquered territory in China. The plan was to converge on Kyushu, overwhelm defenses, and force Japan into submission. The Eastern Fleet reached Hakata first, but this time the coast was not open. The wall stood, defenders were organized, and Japanese tactics had evolved. Rather than waiting for invaders to form up, Japanese forces launched aggressive night raids with small boats. They attacked ships at anchor, created chaos, and prevented the invaders from resting. It was not glamorous, it was strategic. Day after day, the Mongol forces tried to secure a foothold. Japan's defenders tried to deny it. The struggle became an exhausting contest of logistics. The invaders needed stable supply. The defenders needed endurance, summer heat, disease risk, and the difficulty of coordinating multinational forces over water all increased pressure on the Yuan expedition. Then came the moment that turned history into legend. A massive storm struck during the height of the campaign. Later generations called it kamikaze, the divine wind. The event was simple. Extreme weather hit fleets crowded with ships, many built quickly, many anchored in dangerous positions. The storm broke formations, smashed hulls and scattered survivors. Japan's defenders did not simply wait. They pursued damaged vessels, captured supplies, and eliminated the chance of the invaders. Reconstituting the scale of the disaster forced the Yuan command to abandon the attempt. Japan remained unconquered, but the real story of the Mongol invasions is not only the storm, it is what the invasions did to Japan. First, they changed military thinking. The invasions exposed the limits of individualistic combat ideals. Samurai adapted. They coordinated more, fortified more, and fought with an awareness of terrain and timing. Second, they strained the Kamakura shogunate. Defense was expensive, and there was no conquered land to distribute as rewards. The shogunate raised levies, pressured estates, and created resentment, weakening its political base over time. Third, they created a lasting national memory. Japan had faced an external threat and survived. The idea that the islands were protected by geography, resolve, and luck became a story that outlived the shogunate itself. Yet balance matters. Storms do not appear because a nation deserves them. Japan survived because the invaders faced operational constraints, and because Japanese defenders adapted rapidly, built defenses, and fought relentlessly to prevent a stable landing. The divine wind was decisive, but the campaign was already fragile. So picture Hakata Bay in 1281, a coastline fortified with stone watchfires along the shore, small boats cutting through darkness to strike anchored ships, exhausted defenders returning at dawn, and an invasion force trying to hold together under pressure it did not anticipate. Then picture the storm, sudden and indifferent, and the way it turned a grand imperial plan into retreat. Kublai Khan never conquered Japan, but Japan did not come out unchanged. The invasions left a blueprint for coastal defense and a warning about what happens when a political system must fight a total defensive war. Could a decentralized warrior government hold the line against the largest empire of its time? At Hakata Bay, Japan answered yes, not with one duel, but with preparation, adaptation, and endurance. If you were standing behind the stone wall at Hakata Bay, watching the horizon fill with sails, what would scare you more? The enemy's numbers, or the realization that your old way of fighting might not work anymore? And what would you change first to survive?